Two statements, same day. Neither side is blinking. Trump canceled a strike on Iran planned for Tuesday. Then, at a White House event the same day, he said he would give Iran 2 or 3 days, or else the attack would be launched. Hours earlier, Iran submitted a new peace proposal through Pakistani mediators. Tehran said it is focused entirely on an agreement to end the war, and has not yet discussed any details regarding nuclear matters. There is the problem. Stated plainly, Trump's core demand, the demand he went to war for, is that Iran end its nuclear program. Iran's latest proposal excludes nuclear from the discussion entirely. The two sides are not negotiating on the same document. They are not even negotiating on the same subject. And there are 2 to 3 days before the next deadline. This is what that actually means.
ABC News has documented Trump's series of unenforced deadlines across the 12 weeks of this conflict. The pattern is consistent and specific. On March 21st, Trump posted that if Iran did not fully open the Strait of Hormuz within 48 hours, the United States would hit and obliterate their various power plants, starting with the biggest one first. 12 hours before that deadline expired, Trump posted that both countries had held productive conversations and he was postponing all military strikes for 5 days. When that 5 day window closed, Trump extended again. He then posted that Tuesday would be Power Plant Day and Bridge Day. He set a specific time, 8 p.m. He said Iran should open the strait or they would be living in hell. Then he extended again. The ceasefire was announced April 8th and was supposed to last 2 weeks. It has now been extended 4 times. Each extension has come with new language about how this one is final. Each extension has been followed by another. The 2 to 3 day window Trump announced today is the sixth deadline in 12 weeks now. Does that mean it is not real? Does that mean the attack will not come? Not necessarily. And this is the distinction that matters most right now. Trump met with his top national security team over the weekend to discuss the path forward on the Iran war and was expected to meet again with the team early this week. Trump has grown increasingly impatient with how Tehran has been handling diplomatic negotiations and remains frustrated with the continued closure of the Strait of Hormuz and its impact on global oil prices. The previous 5 deadlines were extended because something happened to justify the extension. Pakistan delivered a proposal, Gulf leaders made calls, Iran submitted a document. Each time there was a diplomatic event that Trump could point to as a reason to pause. Trump canceled Tuesday's strike specifically because the Qatari emir, Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, and the UAE president all called and asked him to hold off, saying serious negotiations were underway. 3 heads of state used political capital to stop one strike. That capital has now been spent. Calling again in 2 to 3 days to stop the next strike is harder. Each of those leaders has constituencies. Each of them told their publics that they had prevailed upon Trump to pause. If the pause lasts only 72 hours and the attack proceeds anyway, their intervention is exposed as temporary and their standing is diminished. The Gulf states cannot keep stopping this. They have now intervened once publicly. A second intervention would require a better reason than the first, and today Iran gave them a worse one. Iran's new proposal, given to the United States via Pakistani mediators, focuses on solving the crisis over the strait and the U.S. blockade first. As part of that, the ceasefire would be extended for a long period or the parties would agree on a permanent end to the war. According to the proposal, the nuclear negotiations would only start at a later stage, after the strait was open and the blockade lifted. Let me explain why this proposal, while not unreasonable from Iran's perspective, is almost certainly going to be rejected by Washington, and why that rejection is itself the core of today's crisis. The United States went to war on February 28th with stated objectives: destroy Iran's ballistic missile capabilities, sever its regional proxy networks, and the central objective, prevent Iran from ever obtaining a nuclear weapon. Trump has demanded Iran end its nuclear program as part of any peace deal. Iran has agreed to suspend enriching uranium, but for a shorter period than the 20-year moratorium the United States proposed. Iran has rejected dismantling its nuclear facilities entirely. Iran rejected U.S. demands regarding its nuclear program and its stockpile of highly enriched uranium. Instead, Tehran proposed separate negotiations and offered to dilute some of its highly enriched uranium and transfer the rest to a third country, with a provision that it be returned if Washington exits any eventual deal. Now consider what Iran's latest proposal actually does. It says, let us agree to open Hormuz and end the blockade first. Let us sign a permanent end to the war. And then, after all of that is done, after American leverage is lifted, after sanctions are eased, after the blockade is removed, then we will discuss nuclear. The White House has received the proposal, but it is unclear whether the United States is willing to explore it. The problem is explicit. In lifting the blockade and ending the war would remove President Trump's leverage in any future talks to remove Iran's stockpile of enriched uranium and convince Tehran to suspend enrichment, two primary war objectives for Trump. This is the trap that has defined this conflict since the ceasefire of April 8th. Iran wants Hormuz and the blockade resolved before nuclear. America wants nuclear resolved before it gives up Hormuz and the blockade. Neither side has moved from this position in 12 weeks. The proposals have changed in language. The underlying position has not moved. Trump himself said it most clearly after the Islamabad talks on April 11th. Most points were agreed to, he said, but the only point that really mattered, nuclear, was not. He described Iran as unyielding on the issue, unyielding then. And today, Iran submitted a proposal that excludes nuclear from the current round of talks entirely. Something important happened this weekend that has received almost no attention in Western coverage of these negotiations. Araghchi made it clear to the Pakistani, Egyptian, Turkish, and Qatari mediators over the weekend that there is no consensus inside the Iranian leadership about how to address the U.S. demands. This is a significant admission. It comes not from American intelligence assessment or Western analysis. It comes from Iran's own foreign minister telling the mediators directly that the Iranian leadership is divided. Divided about what? Specifically, about nuclear concessions. Araghchi himself said Iran cannot trust the Americans at all and described the ceasefire as shaky. He said every day brings a different message, sometimes even two different messages in a single day, which deepens mistrust. The foreign minister is the moderate voice in this negotiation. He is the one who flew to Islamabad, who met with Omani officials in Muscat, who went to Pakistan for a second round of talks this weekend. He is the one who said the deal was just inches away after the Islamabad talks, while simultaneously criticizing what he called maximalist demands. The Iranian leadership is divided about what nuclear concessions should be on the table. The hardline faction, represented in part by IRGC leadership, which has consolidated wartime power, does not want to make concessions on nuclear under military pressure. The more pragmatic faction understands that Iran's economy cannot sustain this indefinitely. Araghchi sits between them. The proposal Iran submitted today, nuclear off the table, Hormuz first, is the proposal that both factions can agree to. It is not a concession, it is a deferral. And from Washington's perspective, a deferral after the blockade and sanctions are lifted is functionally the same as a refusal. Because once Iran has what it needs economically, the pressure to make nuclear concessions disappears. The U.S. military blockade of Iran's ports will eventually deprive Tehran of crucial oil revenue, but the regime could likely withstand the pressure for months without a major economic crisis or lasting damage to its oil fields, according to energy industry analysts and two Western officials familiar with intelligence assessments. Months. Iran can withstand this for months, and every month that passes, the ceasefire deadline cycle continues, the pattern of announce and extend continues, and the nuclear file stays exactly where it is. After his weekend in Islamabad and Muscat, Araghchi was expected to travel to Moscow and meet Russian President Vladimir Putin. This is not incidental. This is the diplomatic architecture Iran is building in parallel to its talks with Pakistan. Russia has consistently offered to serve as a custodian of Iran's enriched uranium, a proposal that would remove the material from Iran without requiring Iran to destroy it, giving Iran a face-saving path that also gives Russia strategic leverage over the file. Trump rejected Russia's offer. Moscow's continued engagement on this issue reflects the reality that Russia benefits from this conflict continuing. Oil prices above $100 a barrel and a United States military and diplomatic focus consumed by the Iran file are both strategically beneficial for Moscow. Iran meeting with Russia in Moscow, with Pakistan in Islamabad, with Oman in Muscat, while submitting a proposal to Washington through mediators, is not confusion. It is a deliberate strategy of building a diplomatic coalition that makes unilateral American military action more costly and more complicated with each passing week. Iran has also demanded that the United States end its blockade of Iranian ports as a condition for opening the Strait of Hormuz. Tehran has also demanded war reparations and international recognition of Iranian sovereignty over the strait. America will not pay reparations. America will not recognize Iranian sovereignty over an international waterway. These demands are not serious negotiating positions. They are anchors, placed in the negotiating document to be traded away later in exchange for concessions on the things Iran actually cares about. The question is whether there is time for that trading to happen before Trump's 2 to 3 day window closes. Here is the specific arithmetic of why today's situation is more dangerous than any previous deadline. Inflation in America is at its highest level in 3 years, driven by the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, through which 20% of the world's oil passes. The war is now past the 12-week mark. Trump's original timeline suggested weeks, not months. Every week the war continues, the domestic economic pressure on the administration intensifies. Trump said he does not care about Americans' financial situation, but many Americans do not agree with that. They are suffering, their cost of living has gone up, and some are eyeing the midterm elections in November to make their dissatisfaction clear. Trump cannot extend indefinitely. The domestic political cost of another extension without progress is now real in a way it was not in April. Iran's proposal today defers the one thing Trump cannot afford to defer: nuclear, until after the war ends and his leverage disappears. From a negotiating standpoint, this is rational for Iran. From a political standpoint, it is unacceptable for Trump. The Trump administration has increasingly demanded that Iran abandon uranium enrichment, making this a central issue. Accepting a deal that defers nuclear would expose Trump to the charge that he went to war, spent $30 billion of Pentagon money, pushed inflation to a 3-year high, saw 13 American soldiers die, and got the same deferral that every previous president accepted. That is not a deal Trump can sell domestically. The Senate advanced a bill aimed at ending the Iran war on May 19th itself. Congressional pressure is building from inside Trump's own political system. The window for a negotiated resolution that includes nuclear, the only resolution Trump can claim as a win, is narrowing from every direction simultaneously. 2 to 3 days. Iran's proposal excludes nuclear. Trump cannot accept a deal that excludes nuclear. Iran cannot accept a deal that includes the nuclear terms America is demanding while under military pressure and blockade. The structure of this conflict has been clear for 12 weeks. Two sides that each need a deal. Each need two sides that cannot publicly say so. Two sides whose public positions make the deal the other side needs impossible to accept. Trump needs nuclear in the deal to claim victory at home. Iran needs nuclear out of the deal to maintain domestic consensus in Tehran. These two requirements cannot both be satisfied in the same document. A Pakistani source who has been closest to these negotiations said it plainly. We don't have much time, and both sides keep changing their goalposts. That is the most accurate description of this conflict available, not a description of who is winning or losing, not a description of strength or weakness, a description of two sides that are structurally unable to reach the agreement that both of them need in the time that both of them have left. Trump said 2 to 3 days. Iran said nuclear is not on the table. The mediators are exhausted, and the Strait of Hormuz has been closed for 80 days. This cannot end well. The only question is how badly it ends and who moves first.